All right, doing things a little bit differently here, starting the show off with our interview segment. It is with a very special guest from 105.7 The Fan, reporter Gabby DiPaula. What are we going with here? What's going on? Gabby or Gabrielle? We lose her?
I think so.
Technical difficulties. Got to love that.
It's still slow. How's it going?
So we lost you there for a second too. Did you lose us?
I'll move. I think I get better internet over here.
Yeah, wherever the best internet is, that would be ideal.
I think this is better. I mean, usually towards the side of my room, I don't get better internet, but it was working better over here earlier.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, let me just do that.
Does this work? Is this better? A little clearer?
Yeah, that sounds good.
You're totally throwing me off my spot, but no big deal or anything.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right. We now welcome on a very special guest. It is 105.7 The Fan reporter, Gabby DiPaula. So a little bit of a weird start here. Having some technical difficulties. I don't know totally how to introduce you as far as your name goes. So let's just start off with that. Who are you? What do I call you? Gabrielle or Gabby?
So I introduced myself as Gabrielle, or at least I used to. And then everyone just kind of resulted to Gabby. And like, so how do you spell Gabby? I'm like, I called myself Gabrielle. I haven't said Gabby. But
Where did this come from? Why are you asking me questions about something I didn't start?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple years ago, I just resulted to Gabby because people would call me Gabriel. They call me like Gabrielle. They miss some vowels in my name. I just said, forget it. Like, just call me
It's really
Gabby.
not that complicated of a name. Really not.
You would think. I'm like, you passed first grade, right? Like,
well, I feel like Gabriel is more of a dude situation too. So that's kind of
exactly. And there's
makes you sound kind of majestic though, but yeah, the dude part definitely kicks in there.
Yeah. It got really annoying. So I just said Gabby, and then they're like, how do you spell Gabby? I'm like, I don't even care. I don't care anymore.
Now that I think about it, I am a big Ian Eagle fan. I did listen to your chat with him there. So yeah, interesting sort of name parallels that you guys have as far as that goes. But you're a reporter, so and you cover the Ravens, a team that we cover. You have more access that we do. So maybe like spending time talking about your name for this whole interview probably isn't the best use of either of our time. So we did want to get you on for that reason. And you're somebody who's kind of squarely in the mix with the team. And they're coming off their bye week, heading into definitely the biggest game of the year, I think so far. I mean, other than that Kansas City game, which wound up not being very big. So I'm curious how you would like describe the sort of atmosphere surrounding the team after like really 6 hard-fought games.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's just been kind of weird because the offense hasn't been clicking. The defense, like, they're doing okay, but there's some things that are still missing. Like, Marcus Peters really has been off a little bit. Marlon Humphrey's been doing great, but there's still something that's still off. And I think like right now they're still trying to figure that out. And we're hoping, Lamar said earlier today, which I'm sure you guys heard the conferences, that Lamar said that during the bye week that he worked with his offense and see how it was, or to kind of get that chemistry back. But for this game, Pernell McPhee kind of said like, yeah, of course, like this is going to be a hard fought battle. And Jimmy Smith said the same thing. He said, this is going to be a hard fought battle. It always is, no matter what the records are. It's always a really hard game for both of them to play. And especially I feel like this year too, because they're both really good teams. Last year, the Steelers, like they lost Ben and they were kind of going back and forth with quarterbacks and they lost a couple other players. And so I felt like last year, it didn't really feel like a rivalry because
not the typical juice. We didn't have the typical juice.
Yeah. And like the Ravens were just doing so well. The Steelers were kind of like, let's just get through this game healthy. Like, who cares about the rivalry? Because we just want to get through it healthy. This year, undefeated team, and then the Ravens only lost 1 game. Who is going to win the battle? So I think this year is more of a battle because they're both really good teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were kind of talking about how things haven't been clicking quite yet. And that kind of feels like the elephant in the room. And people talk about, like, what's their identity? What's their identity? And as a member of the media, you're in all the press conferences. You're the one asking the questions. You always do a great job. And you get caught between, with 105.7 and the fans and then the locker room perception. So Is the idea that they haven't been great the last few weeks something you've been trying to address in press conferences? It feels like they've been kind of outspoken.
Yeah, but you have to approach that lightly because, in a way they're not going to like say it. The Ravens are very good at hiding things. If you listen to other press conferences like the Browns, they put it all out there. The Steelers, they don't do it as much, but the Browns, like, they put it all out there. Like, hey, these people aren't practicing today because of this. Ravens, we're all like guessing, but by the time 5 o'clock happens, we're finally the injury report comes out, and we're like, oh, this makes sense. This is why they're not out there. So, yeah, I mean, I just think they're really good at hiding it, and right now, just they are trying to find it. I really think it has a lot to do with COVID, and they had a lot of locker room atmosphere. I remember thinking last year, maybe like week 5 or week 6, it was really early in the season, and I turned to one of the media members, and I was like, this team's like getting along really well. It kind of seems like a college atmosphere, just like young guys. And that person turned to me and was like, yeah, it's a really young team. They're getting along really well. I just remember thinking that in the very beginning before like all the magic really happened last year. And you really don't feel that this year. And I think it's because of COVID. I think there's protocols. I think people, they might not admit it, but I think they're a little stressed out, like thinking, do I have it? I'm getting tested. I'm not, like Marlon Humphrey was out of practice today,
Brandon Williams has a scare.
That's what I think. I think it's more of a mental thing going on right now. And I think it has a lot to do with COVID. And obviously training camp was a lot different this year. So they really didn't have that like boys group going on.
I would say it kind of does feel like 2 different seasons. Like you talk about that opening game against the Browns, and it's pretty much just all smiles. Everything's perfect. Lamar looked perfect. Like nothing to complain about. You go into that Texans game, it's kind of like a badass ass-kicking win, and then you go into that Chiefs game, and all of a sudden they get their clocks clean and they get humbled a little bit. Do you kind of get the sense that since then things have been maybe a little different, and you're kind of talking about a 2-season different like kind of thing, or is it just sort of like that's the regular season, how it usually is? It's just kind of a slog. What do you think?
I mean, this happened last year. It was like week 4, and I remember Tony Jefferson talked in the locker room, and he said like, "There's a lot of things we got to clean up." He was like, I don't know what it is. I was like, I remember he said something along the lines of, I don't know exactly what it is, but we got to clean it up. And they ended up doing it. And they ended up having, winning the rest of the season and having its crazy year. So, I think I don't know. No one knows why it's 2 different seasons, because it does feel that way. It feels like 2 different teams. I mean, Of course, like they lost Marshall Yanda. And he was an older guy, of course, like he usually did like.
They knew that was going to happen eventually, so they felt like that was kind of prepared, but it was still huge.
But you can't just replace him either. Is kind of
right
about it,
right? Because he would usually break the huddles at games, and you saw him when Ravens did Wired in Seattle. He was like, "We're going for it on 4th down." Like an older guy saying that, yeah, like someone to kind of pump them up, and they have Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins just kind of brought in his own personality too, right? So, it does feel like 2 different teams. I'm still not sure why. I am still trying to figure out why. And maybe it's more pressure because Lamar, everyone's like, when he needs to pass more, he needs to pass more. I know a couple of the wide receivers last year were like, we want him to pass more. We do want him to pass more. But also I feel like it's a standard that the Ravens have, that they should be winning and kind of clicking and being this perfect team. And the Ravens have a good organization. I think a lot of people think of it in that way, where they have this certain standard that they have to hit all the time, and they just haven't hit it. They're right there, but they haven't hit it yet.
Yeah, they feel really disappointed a lot of times. I think you hit it on the head with COVID combined with losing people. It feels very sterile in a way, and I'm sure the locker room is very sterile. But then heading into the bye week, a lot of things to improve on, a lot of areas to improve. And this was a team that was speculated that they could be making some additions to try and get that juice going, get the blood pumping. We, have only had 1 year of Eric DeCosta previous to this, and he makes a big move. So we're kind of like, is this going to be the thing? Is this what we're going to be doing again? And then crazy stuff. Yanni Ngakoue being traded for, as well as Dez Bryant being finally added to the practice squad today. What was your immediate reaction to these 2 pieces? And they come out within like an hour or so of each other, and it felt like kind of out of left field early, well before the trade deadline. So what was going through your mind as that kind of hit the fan, so to speak?
Before the trade deadline, obviously it was like during Ravens bye week, which was last week, and during when trade opened up. I remember thinking, a lot of people were saying, wide receivers, like you said, like they need a wide receiver. I thought maybe a tight end who can block really well and who could catch really well. They need
someone a little quicker than Nick Boyle. Nick Boyle, we love him. Everybody loves him to death, but he's just not a guy that's going to be, you're not like, oh crap, we got to cover Nick Boyle out there. He's going to torch us.
Right. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is the Ravens. You're going to get someone on the defense. I don't think they're too worried too much about adding to the offense. I was like, they're probably going to add to the defense because they know they can make, different moves. Greg Roman is, so good with just fooling the defenses and everything that I just felt like they really weren't worried. I was like, I think they're going to make a move, if anything, on the defense. And they did. I know that they were trying to get him for a little while. I know that they offered him something that was a little less, this past off season, and he obviously signed with the Vikings. And I think it worked out really perfectly because he gets his money, but then he comes back to the Ravens as well. And the Vikings, I think they were kind of like ready to give him up because they had someone behind to really fill in Yannick's place anyway. So I thought Vikings were fine with it in that way. And from what I heard, and then for the Ravens, I think it was really awesome for them to get, because now, if they, they don't need to blitz 5 or 6. I mean, they probably will because it's Wink, but if they see Patrick Mahomes again, which they probably will in the playoffs, they don't need to send 5 or 6 guys and then rely on the man coverage. They can just rush 4 and then have a lot of guys in the back. Right.
Right.
And then for the Dez Bryant thing, I know Dez really, he really wanted to be a Raven.
It's gone back a couple of years. I mean, even back to
really crying the other day when they
he started crying when they signed him. Yeah, it's been a long thing.
And,
they offered him a contract a couple of years ago, and
he said he wants to win, right? And I mean, it sounds like he has a lot of heart and everything. I saw he had a one-handed catch today, which looked awesome. I think there's not a lot of there's like speculation, like this guy's going to be the guy that fixes the offense, but he hasn't been hit in almost 3 years, right?
Right.
And when he did, he had to go get surgery. So how much can you really, hope that
guys who are out of the league for like over a year don't always turn out, it's pretty difficult to be away from the game for that long and then jump back in. It's a very unique sport.
He looks like he's, in shape and everything, but can he get hit? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a move I'm super intrigued by. I think if you look at that Unique acquisition, it kind of feels like a puzzle piece that they were sort of missing a little bit, and they just plug it in. He's your pure pass rush type of guy. I feel like wide receiver, they were kind of hoping they were going to be set heading into the season. They were kind of counting on this Miles Boykin breakout. Hasn't really worked out that way. And now he's sort of fading a little bit in terms of confidence, in terms of a couple different things. And I'm curious, as somebody who maybe knows Miles a little bit better than we are, having been, up close and personal with him, how do you think his sort of reaction and his temperament to this move is going to be? Because it feels like a move that maybe correlates a little bit with him not fitting into this offense.
Miles is such like a monotone dude. Like he's just super this. He doesn't get high, he doesn't get low. I will remember when I saw him in OTAs and rookie minicamp last year. Everyone was like, Miles Boykin is making all these catches, and then in the back of their heads like, well, Hollywood's not in there yet because he was injured and he was still recovering and everything. So like, oh, this Miles Boykin guy. But I remember thinking that this guy isn't running the way he should. Like, it didn't look like he was growing into his body yet. Like he looked really slow.
It wasn't like smooth, natural.
Right.
You're summing up the exact things we were saying about him at the time. We were excited, but it's like this guy just kind of doesn't look like he's
like a young deer.
Yeah. Like, that's a really like a little baby
wobbling around.
Right. Yeah. And I just remember thinking like, this guy, he just looks like he's still in college. And of course, like he was just drafted and everything, but it didn't look like it was a guy that I thought would stay. However, he did end up being a really good blocker for them last year, and it kind of worked out. And then he kind of was able to stay on the team in that way. And I think they were really hoping, like you said, for him to be that guy. And, who knows? Maybe he will be, but I mean, right now, like he just looks like he's lost some connections with Lamar. There was a couple plays where he just he didn't even turn around.
He had no clue the ball was even going to be thrown.
Right.
It's happened a couple times. I mean, that's like that's day one stuff. You really can't be having that happen. So to have a guy like Dez, who we've touched on, come in, who's like not afraid. He's like going to like head to head with Romo some of these weeks, who's a guy who's very well respected. Like he's not going to be afraid to get in Lamar's grill a little bit. And Miles kind of doesn't really seem like that type of guy, for better and for worse. So it's just such an interesting like personality mesh, and one of those stories I'm just kind of latching onto. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah. So I don't, I think they'll see how Miles does, and then they're going to see how Dez does, but I don't think it's going to be like an on and off switch. Like, oh, Miles is gone and Dez is in. I don't think it's going to be that easy of a transition because, again, Dez hasn't been hit. And then Miles, I think they still have like some hope for Miles.
Yeah, absolutely. For those in the comments, again, who joined us late, this is Gabrielle DiPaula of 105.7 The Fan, as well as the Galvanized podcast, which we'll actually very curious to ask you about a little bit later, as we said we're big fans. But moving on, the big story this week, this is, and you hit it on a little bit earlier, Gabrielle, this is the first like real Ravens Steelers game in a couple years. Last year was kind of like this weird atmosphere, a lot of weird stuff for the Ravens over the last couple years. But last year, the Steelers feel like this kind of castrated team without Roethlisberger that's, fighting, treading water as best as they can. And now the juice is back. So let's dive fully into this week's game. It's a massive one coming off of an unconventional bye. The Steelers had to have their bye early in the year. The Ravens end up getting theirs kind of luckily pushed. So a little thank you to the Titans after they whooped them there in the playoffs. Give them a little mercy, a little candy before Halloween as a treat back. If you had to use one word to describe the mindset that the Ravens are bringing into this game, what would that word be?
I guess tough. Because they know that there's a lot on the line for them. And honestly, did you see the Steelers schedule after this game? They're gonna
they might go like 13-3 or 14.
This is their last. Yeah, this is like their last like really like difficult game, right?
Then
like,
again on Thanksgiving, and then there's like a bunch of cupcake stuff. Yeah, I mean the Ravens schedule's really
the Ravens have it hard here, and then like for the last 4 weeks they have cupcakes too, so it kind of evens out. But yeah, it's definitely a little fluffy after this.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are going to be tough on them because again, like the standards that the Ravens have, being that complete offense that they were last year, and then having that number one defense too. I think that word really fits it perfectly because they're going to be tough on themselves. They know they have a lot of critics, and they know it's going to be a hard game.
Yeah, definitely. And you get obviously new sort of faces, new voices that come into the rivalry every single year. But obviously, like you touched on, it kind of hasn't been the same the last couple of years. And I mean, when it's 2017 and you're like, oh man, Mike Wallace is really pumped up for this matchup, and both teams are like 4-5. It's like, okay, like that's sick and all, but like, what's the real story here? Like both these teams are mediocre. You're catching these teams at the absolute peak of their powers right now, and there are a lot of new faces. So is there anything you've seen from some of these new faces, maybe like a Calais Campbell or some of these, young juiced up rookies, about how excited they are to get into this thing, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, I mean, like because of this year, you can't really be around them as much, so you haven't really seen anything. Patrick Queen said, was that this week or last week? It's all kind of going together, that he's aware of the rivalry and everything, and that he, some of the guys have like said something to him, like Jimmy Smith has. I think, who else was it? Someone else said something to him. Oh, it might
probably
have been
McPhee or someone.
McPhee, maybe. I think it was Marlon Humphrey too. That kind of said like this is just like a hard, tough game. Like this game's going to be scrappy in a way because it's always been a battle.
Right, and we're going to ask you, I mean, what's the sense you get from some of the new additions to the team on this game, and you hit the nail on the head there. We did also hear Calais Campbell kind of mentioning that he knows what this game's about. We heard McPhee talking about how he's played in the Packers-Bears game, and he's like, that was not this. That's not same quality.
I love that, yeah.
And he was saying some crazy stuff.
It was like, notably, McPhee was 1-5 against the Packers when he was with the Bears, but yeah, it's like, all right.
He was just getting crunk on the sideline with the Bears. Like, all right, I'm just chilling.
I love.
Yeah, but at this point, I mean, Greg Roman, you mentioned Greg Roman, and I think it's just really tough to get like an honest or an easy kind of view or opinion to develop about this Ravens offense, because you mentioned that a really interesting point that they feel like they can work it out, and that Greg Roman's kind of trickery and offense will be able to work itself out. But he's come under a lot of fire so far this season. The Ravens aren't, putting up 50 a game, but they're scoring enough to win. Do you think that he'll be taking a fresh approach into this Steelers game, or should we expect more of the same?
I think we're going to expect more. I'm going to expect more run game, even though the Steelers have been really good at their rushing defense. But I personally, I don't think they use and a lot of other people have said this too, Gus Edwards enough. I think they call him Gus the Bus. He's a great north and south runner. He can break tackles. He's what Mark Ingram says, I'm going to quote him, a recepback too. He can catch them too. So, I mean, I hope
he's grown a lot there in the last year.
Yeah, I remember watching him in training camp a couple years ago, and I was like, this guy's good. And he's going to be good. And he ended up making the 53-man, and he's just been he can break. He's a great running back. Like I've just been a fan of him. I've always wanted them to use him more, and they're starting to a little bit. But yeah, I think that they need to really look back at what they did last year. But they also use a lot of 3 tight ends too, and they don't really have that this year because they traded Hayden Hurst, and but they also have the wide receivers that can block. Obviously, it's not the same, but they have Pat Ricard too, and I think they should definitely use more. So I hope they kind of look back at last year and what they did right. I'm assuming so, just because it seems like the answer, the end all be all, right? Because that's what worked last year. But I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I hope they don't do what they've been doing in the beginning of this year, where it's just they're trying to fool them on, passing routes. Miles Boykin, they know Devin Duvernay's fast and everything, but Marquise, he's only had 1 touchdown and he's had 3. Last year up at this time. So
right.
They need, Marquise needs to learn to get more on top of the defense, and Lamar needs to get the ball out a little quicker. If they keep doing what they've been doing.
I think it's an element of trying to prove to everyone how clever you are, trying to be Kansas City. It's you really don't have to do that, especially with the personnel that you have. These guys are badasses just trying to get downhill. So maybe try to do
young guys too, not very experienced offensive players.
Well, their offensive line, they have Matt Skura, who probably could have went to the Pro Bowl last year if he didn't get hurt.
Right.
And he's not 100%. His knee's still torn up, right? He's not, you can see it. If you watch, he's getting beat. He's not the center that he was, but he's doing good enough.
You can kind of almost see the rust shaking off of him a little bit at times, and you're like, here and there more so. You're like, okay, that looked a little bit more like what we saw last year.
Yeah, I really have been really happy with Bradley Bozeman. I feel like he's really come into his own this year.
Oh hell yeah!
I feel like he's almost been like a Yanda, where Yanda, he said in his press conference last year that he doesn't talk to his family before games because he gets just so intense. I feel like Bradley's kind of taking that role in a while.
We don't talk to our family before we record this podcast either. So trying to get rid of it.
Right.
You had to pick talking about the offense, I guess, staying with it. If you had to pick, there's all these guys that all the fans are clamoring for. It's they need more out of Duvernay. They need more out of Dobbins. He's got to break out. We've asked this the last couple of weeks, I think, to the guests that we've had and to one another. It's if you had to pick one of these guys to have that game where they go off this week, which one would it be, if any? If you have any thoughts on that, because it's kind of general and it's kind of something that people have been clamoring for, but I'm definitely kind of curious about when it's finally going to happen, if at all.
I would like Marquise, because I think Marquise can, Lamar doesn't really throw the prettiest passes. They're not pretty spirals or anything. They have a tail. And I think Marquise is really good at catching those. He's really good at being able to catch Lamar's tail end spirals. And I think he can catch them even when he's, double teamed as well. I want to hope for Marquise. I hope they have a better plan for him because, they all know that he's fast and that he can get ahead of the defense. So
throw it up for him.
I'm going to say Marquise. Although, I'm still rooting for Gus Edwards because I still think he's just a freaking dump truck.
So we got the bus and the jet. Those are the two modes of transportation to beat the Steelers, hopefully. Then moving on as well, Pittsburgh's defense has been really strong again this season. They have a crazy good pass rush. They've got some smart dudes on the back end. Mm-hmm. How do you anticipate, what is the way to beat them for you? What do you think if Ravens fans are really happy this Sunday afternoon, the offense had a great game, why was it?
I think the Ravens need to have ball control and they need to have long drives. If you saw in the game, which obviously you guys did against the Titans, Steelers had the ball first and they dominated that first half. And I think that's really what helped them because it kind of set the tone for them. And I also, in that way, keep Ben off the field. I didn't think Ben was going to be who he is this year. I thought he was going to be really rusty.
He's changed the way he plays a lot. He just gets the ball out as quick as he can. So he's not the same, but he's damn near just as good.
No, I mean, my sister's a Steelers fan, don't ask. And she was like, no, Ben's going to come back this year, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, no, guy's old. Like, there's no way. Like, don't even think about it. Like, they're probably going to restructure their offense and everything, see what they have left in Ben, and then go from there. No, he's doing really well. But I do think they need to keep it out of Ben's hands. I think Lamar needs to, they need to have complete ball control, and they need to control the clock completely. Have long drives, run the ball. Because if you get in Ben's hands, he has no problem passing it. And he also has guys like James Conner too. So
it feels like if you can put the pressure on Ben early, that's been when the Ravens have won games in the last few years against him, and not letting him kind of just be calm in the second half and have a little bit of a lead and hang out and get the ball out quickly. And
that's kind of what happened against the Titans in a way. I mean, the Titans defense, they did some other things. They stopped the run game for them. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I really think it all depends on having long drives and being able to run the ball.
Yeah, I think it's funny with the rivalry games because like it feels like they're always going to be close, so you always kind of default to the generalities. Like, oh, you got to sack Big Ben like 7 times. It's like, okay, like that's easy. You got to turn
not that easy.
Yeah, you got to turn the ball over 3 times. It's like, okay, like how do you do that? But like, I don't know. Like, you mentioned that like obviously you're not as close as you would be in a normal year necessarily. So I don't know like how much you've been kind of tuned in with Wink and what he's doing, but it always feels like in these games it's like a poker game, and it comes down to whatever weird 4th down decision like Mike Tomlin is making, or if like Harbaugh decides to run a fake and like if it works and like what's going to happen. Like as far as Wink goes, like do you think he's going to kind of bring anything special into this one, or he's just going to kind of keep doing what he's doing and playing it straight? Because the defense has been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I do. But again, like having Unique, I'm going to keep butchering his name because I'm awful at names.
No, Unique, you got it.
Yannick is what everyone was calling him.
Yannick
Actually is Unique apparently. Who can say
for the guy? Because I know how he feels. But yeah, Yannick, I really think having him will help because they'll able like LJ Fort, he can drop back in coverage. Tyus Bowser, he can drop back in coverage.
Well, Tyus Bowser, I mean, he can move, man. He can really, really, really can cover.
And actually, Patrick Queen, when they scouted him, they said on his scouting report that he's able to drop back in coverage. Obviously, it's been kind of a little difficult for him this year, but he's starting to like kind of get it, and I think that will definitely help them. But I think having Yannick and being able to just rush 4 and then having other guys in the backfield, because they're going to have Deontay Johnson. You saw what he did with the Titans.
He's a stud, man.
And Chase Claypool's coming into his own too.
Yeah, like every time Red Zone cuts back, it's like Deontay Johnson again. I'm like, all right, well, I have Juju, so if we could like probably throw it to him a little bit, that would help. But
yeah,
that's my fantasy minute there. Mm-hmm. Keep going.
No. I mean, that was like pretty much it. It was just I think Yannick will definitely help being able to kind of just rush 4 and then drop everyone else in coverage.
I agree 100%. And so we kind of talked about, we were going to ask you if the Ravens win this game, the main story will be blank. You kind of hit that and said, long drives, don't turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. If the Steelers win this game, on the contrary, where do you anticipate this narrative going, especially with a fan base that, we've mentioned that things haven't quite clicked that well, and it's very easy to say, well, they're 5-1. So, but there really has been this doom and gloom, it feels like, on a team that's been doing well. So if the Steelers do end up winning this football game, what do you think the narrative surrounding the Ravens 2020 season turns into, and where does it go from there?
That like last year was.
Let's say it was a tough game, and the Steelers kind of, don't blow them out of the water, but the Steelers beat them. Like it wasn't like there wasn't an excuse. There wasn't some referee thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you think it goes from there?
Yeah. Both fan bases have troubles like blaming everything on the referees. Even though
exception to that.
Yeah. I think they're gonna think like Lamar is throwing too much, even if he's like not throwing that much at all, even though he's actually making his first downs passing the ball. He's done more with that. But I think they're definitely going to look at it as Lamar. Lamar is going to be like the problem. I mean, Lamar's not putting up the 30, 40 points that they were putting up last year. they're not clicking. There's some drama going on. I think that's what they're gonna say is maybe Lamar was kind of like a fluke last year and that they were just lucky. I think it will be Lamar's a fluke. Last year, was a fluke as well, and that there might be something going on in the locker room, even though there's
what ESPN will say. That's what ESPN will say.
Your boy Orlovsky is just going to be hamming it up if this happens. So
do you like Dan?
He did not like you.
You hate Dan. I like Dan. I think he's a nice guy.
He's a talented guy, but like I don't know. It's getting to be like performance art at this point, hating on the Ravens. I'm
nice
still
kid, no bid.
Art,
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been hating on the Ravens when they drafted Lamar. Like, what's this kid gonna do?
There was too much love last year, and that's why Ravens fans got too. That's not normal when you look back at the history of this franchise. Gabby, I feel like you're right around the age of us, and that when the Ravens have too much love from the national media and everything, and everyone thinks they're the little sweethearts, it never turns out well.
So are you around here?
Yeah, I'm from Baltimore. I'm born and raised. But you know what? I also think that like they don't really cover the Ravens that well either. Like in general, I don't think they put enough up.
Not a big market. They like to, the Giants can suck and the Jets can suck for 10 straight years and they'll get more.
You're right in the middle of like all the NFC East stuff, and you have Pittsburgh right to the northwest. It's like you're kind of going to get lost in the wash a little bit, but also like to be fair, they're really not playing exciting football every year, so I kind of get it from that perspective.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, it's been exciting. That's why they got some love.
Sure.
Yeah, but Gabrielle, please tell us about your fantastic other ventures. Obviously, 105.7 The Fan. Tell us about Galvanize. We're a big fan, as well as you do a podcast with Kyle Andrews as well.
Yeah, I'm on the Galvanize one. We stopped that about a month ago. Just Raven season started and everything, and then they started doing a different direction. So I was going to go. The head of Galvanize when we go a different direction as well.
Right.
Just because like there's just like so much going on right now.
I mean, this is your busy time of the year.
Yeah. And it just like worked. That's just like the way it worked out for all of us. So, and then I'm on a Ravens podcast with Kyle Andrews, who used to work for 105.7, now covers high school sports
right for Baltimore Beatown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had many beers with that guy. Good dude.
Yeah. Love Kyle. Kyle's a good guy.
For sure.
Yeah, we talk a lot of Maryland sports. We talk Baltimore sports, Orioles, Ravens, headlines. I mean, pretty much what you guys do. We talk about big things. We kind of we joke around a lot too, just because those guys.
We don't like that very much, so we'll keep that out.
You guys are very serious.
Yeah, we keep it razor sharp, straight to the point. Yeah.
We just get right to it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, that's Mobtown Blitz is what that's called, right?
Mm-hmm. Mobtown Blitz.
Get that plug in for you.
I did not name the podcast that. They're like, hey, you want to come on? We start tomorrow. I was like, okay.
Hey, you want to come on? We got the Knuckle Sandwich podcast. It's
creative.
I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, why? Why not? They're good guys.
B-Town either, but we did decide to name the podcast after the website, so I guess that's on me.
Yeah, we screwed the pooch there. Ugly name. Great people. Great guest. Gabby, finally, before we get you out of here, I don't want to keep you too long. As a reporter, in the middle of this team, what do you think, number one, happens this weekend? And number two, what do you think when it's all said and done at the end of this season, the final storyline is? So give us your Ravens Steelers prediction for this weekend, and then what you think the narrative closes out if you had to look 4 months into the future and look back on this season if it were possible.
Oh, dude. Well, I said this week, I think they'll win 27-24. However, I think they'll lose when they go to Heinz Field.
He's the opposite.
Sucks. You think
I would rather have the turkey day. I want to embarrass the Steelers on Thanksgiving. They've ruined multiple holidays.
I'd rather do that, but I know I'm just going to be like full of tryptophan and like probably a little too much and like stuffing, and they're going to like lose on like a last second field goal, and I'm be like, okay, well they're at least still pretty good this year, so I'll have that at the very least.
Steelers will ruin yet another.
I think they're going to ruin my Thanksgiving. Yeah, for sure. I mean, supposed to be unbiased, but I'm born and raised in Baltimore, so I hope the Ravens win, but I think they'll lose on Thanksgiving. I think the Ravens will lose on Thanksgiving. And then I think towards the end of the season, they're going to think like restructuring and everything. Right now, they only have 5 picks. I mean, they pretty much have a pretty complete team, right?
Yep.
They're missing maybe like a tight end. They probably could use like more of a veteran offensive lineman. Obviously, they have DJ Fluker, but he's been okay.
Fluky.
He's been okay. Yeah, he's been okay. But I think you know what, they're going to go into next season feeling okay. They have a pretty complete team. They have a couple guys they need to sign or extend. I think the Ravens, the fan base, have a lot to look forward to. So it's going to be a winning season this season, I think, and I have them going 14-2. And then I think on Thanksgiving they're going to lose their last game, and I think they're going to go into the playoffs pretty happy. So that's my prediction.
Love to hear that. Well, really appreciate you hopping on. This was really fun. Went over, looks like half an hour here. So great stuff. I mean, really appreciate it. Kind of, I don't know if I'd say last minute, but hopping on with us and figuring out with our technical difficulties and everything. We're obviously a very professional operation. So yeah, it was great.
As my dog yaps as well as a cherry on top.
Wait,
of that.
What's your predictions for this weekend and for the rest? Let me ask you guys. I'm sure you guys are
putting us on the spot. Jake, you go first.
I already knew that I'm predicting the Ravens to win. I want to go 28-27. We'll Tucker situation at the end.
Tucker's going to be a lot of help, I think.
Yeah.
I could see a Tucker game. I could see this being like a big time Tucker, like dangling, dancing kind of thing again.
Like doing some terrible like Drake dance. And it's like my favorite thing is when those happens is like whenever he does that, everyone around like NFL Twitter rediscovers like who Justin Tucker is. And it's like, oh, this guy is like dancing and like some people are into it and like other people are not. I'm very much into it, but it's always a funny thing when that happens.
I do my best to try and make it objective, look at the schemes of different teams, things going on, the Ravens coming off the bye. The Steelers have a lot of beat up guys missing practice today. But when it comes to the Steelers, the real fan in me takes over. And I just have this vision, so to speak. I'm going to go a little Joe Rogan here, but I have this vision that the Ravens lose this football game and that the Steelers look good, the Ravens look okay, and then the national media just runs away with the Steelers being God's gift to the earth again, and Big Ben, comeback player of the year, and who's going to beat the Steelers, and they play this cupcake schedule. And I think that the Ravens are going to be 5-2. It's going to light a fire under their ass. Everyone's going to be down on them. This is the Steelers division again. And then on Thanksgiving, I think that's when we get the Tucker game. And I think that's when they steal the mojo back. And I think they get hot going into the postseason. So that's my very fan level prediction, because it just feels like imminent Steelers, love fest after they beat the Ravens this weekend, before the Ravens go back and steal it and steal a holiday. So that's my prediction. Ravens 20, Steelers 30.
It's entirely possible. But yeah, like I was saying before you jump back in there to do the reporter thing and ask us those questions, we do appreciate you hopping on with us, you clowns, having some fun here. So yeah, it's been a great half an hour. But like, what's the rest of the season looking like for you with 105.7? Where can the people find your stuff? All that good stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Gabby, Gabby. It's just how everyone spells it, so it's how I spelled it.
Having a Y is fun, I feel like.
Yeah, why not?
I go by Jakey a lot. So
right, whenever I get like media stuff, they like the Ravens spell on their envelope Gabi. I'm like, whatever. DiPaula, DiPaula. So you can follow me on Twitter in that way, and I'll be there with updates.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate your time. We hope you have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy this game in whatever capacity you're going to be watching it. And we hope to get you back on sometime. Hope you had fun.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. It was a blast.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right, bye.
That was great.
That was a lot of fun. Gabby is a knowledgeable individual. She does a great job. Make sure to go follow her at Gabby, Gabby, DiPaula, DiPaula. That was a lot of fun. She got the predictions out early. That got my juices going at the end a little bit. Like that put a little adrenaline in my neck.
I thought you were going to do the same thing that you did with the Chiefs game, where you like flipped on your pick at the very last second and picked the.
No, because I have nailed this season. In my initial games, when I did it before the season, when I don't have the juices going, when my blood is in my head and not in other places, which sounds very pervy, actually, now that I said that. But when I am thinking with my brain and not with my heart, I think I'm spot on. And I think that makes it that the Ravens are going to win this game, maybe because my heart says that the Ravens are not going to win this weekend, despite a lot of things being in their favor. But now we can kind of flip it and get this episode. We have a ton of comments coming in here. The Fly Guy Sky, can Gabby come on weekly? A lot of love for Gabby there. Tons of comments. Wow, it's the most we've ever had in here. But a lot of fun stuff. And let's get it going and get this episode into our. I guess we are going to have another episode this week too.
Hopefully. Yeah, so for everyone watching, I think we should just kind of roll it into this and do it for tomorrow. So for everyone watching on YouTube, I think what we're going to do is, if you're cool just hanging for another half hour or whatever, we can chop this game and some news up, and I can get the intro going and everything, and we can kind of just cut it together as one audio thing if that works for you.
Boom, do it.
Cool.
Now I get to enjoy this lovely Frosty.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Wendy's.
Work away with your great audio.
Sponsored by Wendy's.
Okay.
Hey, this is Power Card, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's la-marvelous.
Thank you, guys.
So, new laptop setup, and for whatever reason, the sound of the intro doesn't play for me all the time. So you were dancing there, and I was kind of hoping to, but I didn't. My name is Jake Luke, and you are listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. As I open a crispy boy, and Spencer Nathaniel Schultz is chowing down on some. What did you say it was? Dairy Queen?
No, bro. This is Wendy's. I would never eat Dairy Queen. I'm not a Dairy Queen type of dude.
The Texas stop sign? You're not into it?
Oh no, I stay out of Dairy Queen. I'm very much onto the Frosty game. I'm not the Blizzard. You flip it upside down. That makes me uncomfortable.
I don't know, Jim. I'm into it. I haven't had it too much, to be fair, but it's just seems like my kind of vibe.
It is pretty apropos for you, I feel like. But yes, it is a fine Wednesday evening. You guys are hearing this on Thursday, unless you're with us live. A lot of fun stuff happening this week, last week, all the weeks, every week as a Baltimore Ravens fan. I'm excited. We have a great interview that we concluded. We'll have that a little bit later for you guys. And hopefully another really exciting one this Friday. We don't usually like to announce them ahead of time, as my dog keeps yapping, but we don't like to announce them ahead of time, but it should be a very fun one as well. So back-to-back kind of bang-bang episodes, hopefully this week with two great interviews.
Yeah, Dick Tracy bang bang. Going to be a big-time week, provided everything goes through with that interview that we're referencing. I think there shouldn't be any problem. So that's going to be a ton of fun, as is the one that we have for you guys at the end of this. If you're watching on YouTube, you already saw it. It's with Gabrielle/Gabby/ who could honestly say DiPaula.
The Gabinator.
Okay. Yeah.
I just went to Wendy's. Come on. Give me a break here.
You said that.
The Baconator.
Yeah, but yeah, really fun interview with her. She's reporter for 105.7, really knows her stuff, very good on a mic. So really fun 40 minutes or so with her, chopping this game up, chopping up the bye week, all that kind of stuff. But we did also want to throw together some stuff for today's episode as far as news, as far as breaking this game down. I just kind of do a one episode week this season, releasing on Thursday, since we kind of took our early week episode format off for the bye week. I know I could use a break. I'm sure you could have too, especially after your battle there with the little C word, COVID.
Yeah, COVID got me. COVID got me good. As I have some rasps coming, but that's probably from the Frosty more so. I still got a little cough. I tried to go for a run. That lasted not a long time. I don't have my win back yet as I crush Wendy's and make myself seem like a fool. But yeah, I feel all right. I feel back to my normal self. I'm not contagious anymore. None of that stuff. So got my hair cut, and that's my big exciting adventure outside of the house, the Wendy's and the haircut for the last couple weeks.
A lot of comments rolling in about how you're looking, kind of fit as a fiddle again. So at least you're looking 100%. That's great. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're here. We can maybe talk some Ravens if you're into that.
Yeah, we can do the old bang, bang bird gang to steal from the Eagles, as someone comments that.
I love it. So yeah, I mean, they made things official, put a ring on it with our guy, throw up the X, Dez Bryant, signed to the practice squad. He was out there today on Wednesday, making one-handed catches, wearing that scout team number 11. Kind of a bizarre sight, honestly. He didn't even have his name on the back of the jersey, but an interesting sight in the ongoing saga that is the career of Dez Bryant, who came out of the 2010 draft with all the hype with the Cowboys, pretty much more or less lived up to it. Kind of a turbulent ride at times, and then, of course, winds up getting released. He signs to the Saints for like a day, gets injured again, hasn't played in 2 years, comes to Baltimore, eats too much Jimmy seafood, is yakking it up on the field the next.
I think if I end up in old age losing some of my sharpness between the ears and unable to, have the memories of many things, I think the images of Dez Bryant posting the night before a workout at Jimmy's Seafood and then the report of him throwing up on the practice field will be stained into my memory for the rest of my life. But go on.
Which is kind of sick if you think about it. I mean, hopefully that's not the lasting memory that we have of Dez Bryant, with him now being officially signed to the practice squad. And all intents and purposes is probably going to be on the roster at some point here. But yeah, I mean, it concluded he left town without a deal. They said they wanted him to get back into football shape and get his conditioning together. Seems like that happened, and they're signing him here again as we head into the biggest game of the year coming out of the bye week against the Steelers. So going to be a ton of fun watching Dez's development. But like I said, they made it official today with John Harbaugh saying it's very simple. We'll just see where he's at. He hasn't played for how many years? He looked good in the workout. He's on our practice squad roster, so he's available to use. When he's ready to go, he'll be out there. It's that simple. I feel like Harbaugh, going back to when they were...
Like, does he want to fight Dez? That's what it sounds like. Sounds like he wants to kick his ass.
I know. He's when they were pretty much going back to when they weren't even signing him, or when they were not even like talking about potentially signing him. It was like he was just being so cagey about it. He's being cagey about it again with him even being on.
Yeah, cagey is the right word. It kind of sounds like a Doberman that's been backed into a corner that's starting to like. Argh.
You know what that tells me is, and I don't want to read the tea leaves too much, but I feel like they've got plans for this guy.
Yeah, something's going on here. I don't know what it is, but Harbaugh is like usually like, oh yeah, welcome to Baltimore, welcome to Harm City, love to have you guys. Oh yeah, he's like, oh yeah, we'll talk about Dez if he gets signed. I don't even know what the hell's going on.
All of a sudden, he's like the fucking drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket. But yeah, it's interesting.
You'll earn 81 if you make the squad, boy.
Literally every single like free agent signing, it's always this sort of sunshine and roses thing. And with Dez, it's just like a fucking absolute, like Froshman situation down at Navy. But yeah, it's been interesting. You had Lamar saying it's tremendous. We just got to see what he's capable of. I see him on IG a lot doing his thing. He be grinding.
He has been, and that's why I've been rooting for him. And I've said this already. I'll say it again, but like, you're in the same boat, I feel like, too. Like, I wanted Oklahoma State, Dez Bryant on the Baltimore Ravens. I think they had the 24th pick in that draft, 25th pick, and he gets taken at 22, 23.
It was one pick, or no, it might have been something else, because he got taken one pick before them. The Cowboys traded up.
It was one pick?
I think
Damn.
so. I think
so.
It
was something like that. It was no more than like 3, whatever. But
the problem with it is it's impossible to even look that up. So
yeah, it's so impossible. Google down for the evening, apparently. But so that happens. This is my own personal stupid story, but I end up drafting Dez in fantasy like every single year because I loved him so much at Oklahoma State. And I think it was that 2015 year when he had like 15 touchdowns, 2014 maybe. 14. He won me like 2 fantasy leagues, a bunch of money, and I was just like throwing up the X, like loving life. Then finally he gets disgruntled with the Cowboys. Some weird stuff happens with an alleged video. The Ravens offer him a contract and he shoots it down. And that was like the second coming of little boy Spencer hearing that the Ravens traded for Terrell Owens and assuming they won a Super Bowl. Like, oh my God, we don't even need a quarterback. Just have Terrell Owens play quarterback with Ray Lewis and the Ravens defense. Like, whatever. Oh no, I don't want to play with Kyle Bowler. I'm not taking my physical. Okay, cool, Terrell Owens. Oh, Dez Bryant, you don't want $27 million? Okay, go to New Orleans and tear your freaking Achilles. That didn't turn out well. But
funny thing about that whole situation was in 2018, like he declined them, and then he's like visiting the Browns that year,
right?
Rookie year, and it's like, okay, like what's going on here, Dez? But it turned out, I think there was some genuine like angst about taking a deal like that, which I appreciate from his perspective.
Yeah, he wanted to bet on himself. It doesn't work out. You can't. I mean, had a horrible injury. Achilles I can't even imagine. That's absolutely insane. Had a long road to recovery, but we see the videos, we see the work, and it's been work. And him and Antonio Brown have kind of had this parallel absence that has been Dez quietly working with Antonio Brown loudly working, but also just being a absolute whatever adjective you want to use, fill in all of them. But it's been this kind of alternate story. Dez has an injury, AB doesn't. But it's just good to see, like, if Dez signed elsewhere, if Dez signed with the Cardinals or, wherever in the NFL, I would have been really happy for him. We still don't know what he has in the tank, but it's kind of hard to watch and we love the workout videos. I love the workout videos. It's just kind of hard to watch someone laser beaming a fucking pigskin at his face while he's laying down and just sticking into his hand and seeing him training, like skying all 3 feet off the ground, catching balls again. And it's been so consistent so much, and it's hard to expect that much out of a guy who hasn't played in a couple years, but the veteran, physical, boundary pass catcher, if he can be 70% of what he was a couple of years ago, if he can be, not even like what Steve Smith was or not even what Anquan Bolden was, but just a little bit of it, that would be so perfect for this offense that needs a possession receiver to complement Mark Andrews, someone who can go big body corners on the outside for Lamar. I mean, Hollywood can't do that. There's one dude on this team who can big body DBs, and it's Mark Andrews, and he gets double covered, triple covered. So it's tough.
And this is very like fuck boy, like plays Madden once fan, but it kind of feels like he has like one of those badges that like some of the players have and some of the other ones don't. And like the other guys kind of don't have that. And I don't know like what you would call it, like
sticky gloves, whatever. He drops passes, but like
some like, alpha mentality type deal, because he's got it and like some of these other guys don't, which we touched on. So it's interesting.
Baller is the badge you give him. He's just a baller.
Sure. As we have Heinz Dampf. Love you guys. Greetings from Germany. Yeah. Okay. Hello, Heinz Dampf. Big fan of the Germans I am personally.
And now you've insulted one of our 7 German listeners, and he is gone forever.
I have wanted to get out to a Borussia Dortmund game for many years, and they've been to the Netherlands and Lochem, Holland, which is about an hour and a half from Germany. Did not get to Germany that time, but hoping to get to there sometime for Oktoberfest. Once COVID is cleared up, obviously.
Guten Hagen, my Schwinky was the keys the whole time. We will leave it at that.
What a reference that is.
I love gold. But yeah, Dez, who knows, man? Who knows? Crazy week. Crazy week. It still hasn't really hit me, and I didn't win the ticket lottery. I work a double on Sunday anyway. But if I don't get to see Ngakoue and Dez Bryant, if Dez Bryant comes up to the active roster and like scores 1 touchdown or has 1 deep ball in Raven Stadium and I do not see it, I'm going to be upset. And I'm probably not going to. So I'm going to be upset at some point.
Well, he's not going to be active this week, right?
No, but I don't think I probably won't be able to go to a game.
I'm planning on not going. I'm going to stay at home. How about that?
How about that? Yeah.
No, I might go to a game. Who could say? But I mean, I'm banking. That would rely on me getting the opportunity, which I don't know I'm going to get.
Oh, Heinz said he'll pay for beer. Okay, Mr. Dampf.
Dude, hell yeah. This is turning into a coup for us right now.
This has turned into a coup. Coup. All right, let's turn up the juices. Let's start talking some pity Pittsburgh.
So we already kind of touched on it in the interview. We're probably just going to cut this around, so this will come after the interview. But sorry for, again, the fucking Quentin Tarantino
we're Pulp Fictioning.
Here. Yeah, we're Pulp Fictioning the YouTube audience. But jumping into this matchup, it's an interesting one. 2 teams that, like I said, kind of at the height of their powers. You've got 2 offenses. I think one is firing better than the other, and that would be the Steelers. And I think one defense is a little bit better than the other, and that's the Ravens. So I guess starting with Pittsburgh's offense, what is sort of the main takeaway from the tape guru here?
2.29 seconds time to throw from the snap of the ball. Ben Roethlisberger, lowest number in the NFL, quickest in the NFL is a better way to put it. Dwayne Haskins is 2.39 because they just didn't want him holding the ball, but that's for a very different reason. Ben just, he doesn't throw over the middle of the field very much. He sticks to the outside. They throw a lot of screens, a lot of curls, a lot of comebacks, a lot of slants, a lot of screens. And he doesn't hold the ball. They don't want him taking hits. There are plays where, I honestly think their offensive line should just cut block and clear everything out for him more so, because there's like literally plays out of shotgun where there might as well be 2 offensive, like there might as well just be a center. And that's how quickly he's getting the ball out. That plays into the Ravens' hands, I feel like, because if they go get Yannick Ngakoue, he's not going to be playing 60 snaps today, or Sunday, pardon me. I don't know why I said today. Not going to be playing 60 snaps, but it's not like, the Ravens have some shit defense and he's the one who's supposed to bring it all together. They have an elite defense right now. They're top of the top in EPA, rushing EPA allowed per play, passing EPA allowed per play. They're second in the NFL in sacks per game to the Steelers. But he's going to be able to allow them to do some things, and they can go play press man. If you want to beat the Steelers in this game, if you want to beat the Steelers in this game, press them, jam them, play them outside in. And this is going to be a really stupid statement in a way. I would rather give up big plays to them than let them paper cut you to death, because that means that Ben is going to have to hold the ball and hit over top under pressure if they're going to be hitting on 20 plus air yard throws.
To that point, I mean, their paper cutting is looking like it's proving effective. They're doing these crossing routes and getting guys open, just like with all this trickeration is maybe not the word for it, but they're just.
It is trickeration. They use Ray McLeod on jet sweeps.
Peak McDaniels, just moving guys around before the snap and just like kind of getting guys sort of wide open a little bit, pick plays here and there. And I mean, to their credit, they have a very talented offense. Like, you're probably not going to be able to pull this off without guys like Claypool and Juju and Deontay Johnson and just all this talent that they've accumulated. They're very impressive.
Very impressive. Heinz Dampf is not a real German. I feel like that's a coup as well.
It could be, but I'm going to choose to believe. How about that? A little bit of hope in 2020. That's my platform.
Hope.
No one's ever done that before.
No one's ever done the hope campaign before. But yeah, this offense is the death of 1,000 paper cuts. They do hit the big plays. Chase Claypool has been super impressive, but I don't think he's going to be able to go big body Jimmy Smith or Marlon Humphrey. Marlon's going to be in the damn slot, so that Marcus Peters might get like big bodied by Chase Claypool at some point. But the Steelers convert third downs at the highest rate in the NFL right now. They are like outlier level in comparison with the rest of the NFL because they hit on quick passes and they have sneaky little draw plays and sneaky little counters and these very well schemed up rushes that aren't explosive, but they get 6 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. And Ben is calling a lot of shit at the line of scrimmage. So it's going to be that chess match. But if the chess match is man coverage press, what's he going to call? He's going to call those crossers and things like that. Those take time to develop. Make him hold the ball, hit him. He will chuck up interceptions. We all know that. If you make him hold the ball, he will throw interceptable passes at some point. So I think maybe sacrificing a big play or two potentially. I'm not saying don't have anyone deep, don't have Deshaun Elliott or Chuck Clark in single high deep 15, 20 yards like they've been doing, but bring it in, play them outside leverage in. And the other part of it is, because they get the ball out so quickly, what should Calais Campbell do? What should Derek Wolfe do with their gigantic wingspans? Get their fucking hands up. Get up, bat passes at the line of scrimmage. Get up, bat passes at the line of scrimmage, and get those damn interceptions. Get those turnovers. If you're not able to get there, get your hands up. That is Pee Wee League level, advice to NFL players. Calais Campbell, I think, is still leading the NFL in batted passes, but get your balls on a couple of those and good things are going to happen for this Baltimore Ravens defense.
Okay, so Heinz is saying, sorry to disappoint Jake, I'm German. So he's saying he's German and good vibes. Respond to me with what region you're from, and we will definitely believe you. I'm a big Westphalia guy personally. But as far as, we're talking about this offense, you're talking about forcing turnovers. Is there like let's say you got to get Ngakoue involved. Is there like a formula as far as getting the pass rush going that's going to get Ben off his platform a little bit and force him into those? Or is it just line up Ngakoue as that fourth guy, only have to rush 4? Or are you getting creative?
You have to get creative, I think, because you're going to have to get free rushers if you really want to get him quickly. The overall thing, though, is Ben doesn't roll out. The Ravens have played Baker, Deshaun, Patrick, Burrow, Haskins, and Wentz. Those are pretty young, pretty athletic quarterbacks that break the pocket. Ben is a fullback. He goes north and south. He wants you to rush past him so he can step up a little bit, fall forward for 3 yards if it's there, or just throw a little sniper to someone like 11 yards downfield. Have a very contained rush that you can control and clog the passing lanes because he steps up and that's when he does damage if he holds the ball. So I think not rushing past him from the interior and then giving some of those, I want to say the slot corner blitzes, he's gonna be able to ID pretty well if they do some of the slot corner stuff. I think he's going to do a good job picking that apart, but I would like to see them try and get some free rushers still. I want to see Bowser used in coverage a lot in this game to jump underneath into hooks and curl zones and try and see if he can get his hands on something. I would assume they're going to try and take advantage of Patrick Queen. If you're looking somewhere, it's not going to be Marlon. I don't think you're going to try and take advantage of Peters underneath. That's his strong suit, is those underneath zones and press man coverage. So I guess you're going to look at those linebackers and try and test Patrick Queen. So we saw him have an amazing read against the Eagles, jumps perfectly into a passing lane on a backside slant that was wide open and would have been a touchdown if he didn't read it. Should have been a touchdown the other way, but like we end up talking with Ms. DiPaula on this podcast in our interview later, saying he's looking a lot better in coverage. He's learning. His preseason is over, so to speak. We heard Wink say that, and it's starting to look like he's a damn NFL starting inside linebacker in coverage more so. So make those plays, jump stuff. The underneath passing shit is if you can't let yourself get beat by them just converting first down after first down. So it's going to be strength on strength. The Ravens, I think, are fourth with 36.3% first down conversion rate allowed on third down. And the Steelers are converting 42.4% of their third down conversions, if I'm not mistaken, which is the best figure in the NFL. So that's a strength on strength right there.
So we've got Heinz saying he's from the middle of Germany. Hanover is my hometown. They have Hanover 96 as the team there. Currently living in the West in Dortmund, actually. So he does live near Dortmund, wondering if he's got to the Westfalenstadion and seen a game with Erling Haaland and the boys. But yeah, I'm into this whole Heinz Damm thing. I want to get out to Germany. But if you had to make a bet, forced fumble recovery or interception, what do you think is going to rule the day as far as turnovers? If there are any. You don't even have to say there are going to be any.
I think that after the Juju incident, they're going to want to paper cut the Ravens to death. I think they
when are teams going to learn to avoid Marlon Humphrey and like his punch sting? It's turning mainstream now, and I feel like teams are just going to either avoid the guy with ball carriers or like teach dudes to just fire drill, roll up and just kind of avoid this dude with the ball in your hands.
It's not even just Marlon though. I mean, Elliott has had a couple, Patrick Queen has had a couple. Like they're leading the NFL. They have 11.
They're kind of taking their cues from him, it feels like now, where everyone's kind of trying to punch the ball out. And
it's Wink's classic thing that he said in 10 different press conferences since he took over as DC, shots on goal. And shots on goal is punches at the football. And that's turned into something that is like unique in the NFL, is the Ravens forcing fumbles. You have to think that Tomlin is going to be like bug-eyed, like, I swear to God, if I see that ball on the turf after all week we practice, blah, 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 blah. He is not going to want that to happen. They are going to sacrifice yak for turnovers, and they're going to want to pick apart the Ravens underneath. It's difficult to pinpoint where it's going to be, but they're just going to want to get those easy yards, get out of bounds, ball security. So I think picks. I think they're going to get a pick in this game. Like I said, unless they are all out blitzing, weird zone off coverage stuff, similar to what they did against the Chiefs, trying to stunt and loop and do a bunch of crap, you're not going to get to Ben, and he's gonna recognize the hot read. He's going to call it out pre-snap, and he's going to get the ball out. So I think a pick is coming. I think Calais Campbell is going to be an X factor in this game, and then there's going to be an interception, maybe two. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, that was my Mike Tomlin impersonation, by the way, though. Just like absolutely thumping his chest. He does that way too much.
And sticks his little foot out on the sideline.
He does do that. All-time memory being at that game, honestly. That was such a fun game.
That was a fun game.
Talk about two irrelevant teams.
That was Thanksgiving, no?
Yeah, it was, but they were both 8-8 that year, and they were kind of like straggling for this playoff spot. Cincinnati was really good that year. That was a fun-ass game, though, man.
Jacoby eating the turkey after the game.
Yeah. Yeah, good times. Yeah, I guess we can switch to the other side then. What is... Without Devin Bush in the picture, I mean, you've got Minka. Who else is really going to be the guy you're kind of looking at and trying to stop if you're Roman? I guess you got Watt. You got a lot of guys to choose from here.
The guys you're most fearful of are Cam Hayward, Tyson Alualu, and Stephon Tuitt. I think Tuitt was NIR practice today, so he's fine. He had a day off today, but those three, Orlando Brown has really handled TJ Watt well. TJ Watt only plays on that left outside linebacker. Orlando Brown mans him up pretty well. TJ Watt hasn't really hurt the Ravens a ton yet. Knock on the old wood, but Ronnie Stanley hasn't allowed a pressure according to PFF so far. I haven't looked at SIS this week, but hasn't a lot of pressure yet. I'm confident in them being able to handle Bud Dupree and those things. Steelers can contain Lamar on the outside because of those two guys a little bit, but Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, those two are going to wreck shop. It feels like there's no Yonda, and the Steelers have been battling Yonda for years and years and years, and there's so many reps of Cam Hayward and Yonda going at it, and Yonda won more than he lost. They have to be foaming at the mouth to try and get interior pressure on Lamar. And the Steelers are blitzing just with the Ravens right about at the exact same rate. So they're getting one-on-ones, they're getting free pressure. They bring Mike Hilton, they bring Vince Williams. So the Ravens need to figure out how to counteract that interior pressure, or that is going to cause Lamar to get all jumpy. And that's what we saw last year in Pittsburgh in that game that made me kind of rip Lamar apart and lose a lot of confidence in him a little too early. But that's where I'm fearful. Interior pressure, the not being able to get movement off the ball in the run game against those guys without Yonda, and that's gonna be a tough one.
If I were a betting man, and I'm not, but if I were, I think this is the week the passing game gets going, and I am anticipating. We say this a lot, but I am anticipating little Devin Duvernay 50+ yards in this game and maybe a touchdown.
They've been talking about him as the secret weapon, and they haven't thrown him one 9 route yet. Nothing deep.
Try and do this. I mean, you're talking about a 9 route, but if there's a week to try and get what I'm talking about is the short passing game going to try to neutralize this, what you got going on with their front seven. I feel like this is going to be the one, right?
Lamar doesn't check down a lot, man. He pushes the ball deep.
Draw something up. What are we paying you for?
I think that they need to push the ball deep still against this team. I would like to see more max protections, less empty. Steven Ruiz, we've touched on that point of the article that he wrote, kind of highlighting the two reasons why he suspects that the Ravens' passing game and overall offense hasn't looked quite the same. I kind of chalk it up to not running the ball on first down well, but he mentions the empty stuff. And the empty stuff I don't want to see as much in this game. I want Boyle and Ricard in to block a little bit if they're going to be on the field. I kind of want them to just be used to maybe double team and really buy time for Lamar. Get Hollywood over top. Take the shot. Get him one-on-one and take it if you can. They're going to take Andrews away. They did it last year. It worked really well. They're going to combo coverage him, form a triangle, form a diamond around him, in zone, do all that shit. I would be surprised to see Mark Andrews have a monster day. Maybe in the red zone he snags a touchdown or two, but I don't see him kind of consistently gashing them. Teams just don't let that happen. So, yeah, Duvernay. They need Duvernay to step up. I think the checkdowns would be beautiful, but Lamar is second to last in the NFL in checkdown percentage. Checks the ball down on like 2.5% of throws per PFF.
So I'm like, when you say check down, do you mean like designed short throws? Because that's kind of more.
It's not designed. It means that it's in the flats. It's basically an uncovered player that either is part of a play action that leaks out, or
so that's what I'm saying. Like I know what you mean by check down, but I'm saying what I'm more talking about is just like slants and like bubble screens and short shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think they're going to stack the box though.
Okay.
If they stack the box, I don't want to see that. I want to see him try and push the ball deep.
But
so I think I like J.K. Dobbins. I like J.K. Dobbins to be a check down option. I like him getting some angle routes, getting some juice going. Ingram's still nursing that injury, so maybe this is the Gus and J.K. show. Maybe we see a little Justice Hill. Who knows? Question mark?
Listen, nobody loves Justice Hill more than me.
I know you're a big Justice Hill guy.
It's more just the name Justice Hill. Like the guy's name is like a location, which sounds sick.
Yeah, that would be a cool place, Justice Hill.
That's where they like.
It's like where you play Smear the bad word that we used to play when we were little.
Yeah, that didn't age well.
No, it did not. But that you go to Justice Hill to play that tackle game and King of the Hill.
All the characters in like a Linklater movie wind up at Justice Hill, and they're like stoned and like reflecting on life.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Hill, Justice Hill.
Just watched Everybody Wants Them.
The Federal Justice Hill.
Yeah, Federal Justice. Okay, listen, we're doing a lot right now, but I could see maybe they should rename Pigtown Federal or Justice Hill.
Oof.
Pigtown's a sick name though, so that's probably not.
Do you know why it's Pigtown?
Probably because there were pigs there, I would assume, right?
Yeah, it was the Butcher Block in Baltimore, and they used to I think it was on Sundays. They used to open up. They used to transport the pigs like 5 blocks to go to slaughter, basically down the cobblestone streets, and the pigs would run through the streets, and it became Pigtown.
It's a home of one George Herman Ruth.
It is the baby. Oh, the baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We
But
got off on a big time tangent there.
yes, big time tangent.
Okay.
Yeah, but this offense pushed the ball down the field. I mean, they have a fast-flowing defense. They don't have Devin Bush, but they still got Vince Williams and Hilton and, Minka and some guys. I would be surprised to see Lamar busting out, 50-yard runs. I think they're pretty gap sound and disciplined up front, so it's going to have to be a big body game, and it's going to be tough sledding with no Yanda. So it feels like there's just going to be a lot of pressure on Lamar, and it would have been nice to maybe have Dez. If Dez is a guy that can actually make an impact, we still don't know. And I don't want to jump to any conclusion. But if he does, it would have been nice to have him signed 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. My voice is going out. 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, Jim.
Jim signed him 3 weeks ago. Signed him a couple weeks ago. Now he's not up to speed. So it feels like this is going to be a lot of pressure on Lamar again. And I think that's how you get him into that mode where he's doing too much. And it's not, coming out smoothly. So, maybe Dez Bryant is the stool softener. Who knows? But at this point, it's just going to be a lot of pressure. I feel like it's so easy to tell when he's on early. And the same thing with Flacco. And maybe it's just because I watch those quarterbacks more than I've watched any other quarterbacks.
All about tempo, right? I mean, if the tempo is like frantic and kind of fast and going a little too fast, it's like, not going to be a great day here, Jim. But when they're kind of a little more deliberate and pacing things out, and it feels like they have a plan,
but they get to the line of scrimmage so fucking late. I feel like all the time,
which
they are too deliberate.
Which I think is something that Roman has said he wants to emphasize.
Like get on the ball. You can milk the play clock and communicate, but get on the ball so that you have time to read the defense and time for Roman to talk to you.
And I think that maybe goes into some of the maybe not necessarily communication issues they're having, but you're talking about Boykin not getting the play call. It's like
because it might be late calls. It might be trying to do a bunch of shit with 4 seconds left when you're like trying to make sure that you're on and you're covered the tackle or whatever, and then you're not hearing stuff because it's like coming in left and right. So get on the ball fast, and that starts with a quarterback. To be honest, that starts on Lamar Jackson. That is the responsibility of a quarterback. Get everybody lined up. That's whoever's calling the plays on defense. That is something the green dot is responsible for. To come on, go. You relaying the call in so guys are getting aligned properly based on the front, all that stuff. So get to the line, check down a little bit more, push the ball over top when you have a chance, and don't rely on that empty shit because it's not working. Those are the offensive keys to the game.
Okay. So anything more?
Nothing more. A Raven. Nevermore.
Okay. Evan asked,
is that what it is? I can't even remember. Nevermore.
Evan asked Jake what is on tap. It is the Heavy Seas Pounder Pilsner, which is what they used to call Spencer back in high school, actually Pounder Pilsner. So interesting sort of tie in there. But this has been a fun little preview. Get a fun interview coming up here, obviously. But I guess you have no more thoughts on this one?
No more thoughts on this one. I'm taking the Steelers. I think I have to.
Okay. What was your score that you predicted? So spoiler alert for the end of this coming interview, we did make our predictions there, but I guess we should probably also make them here. What do you got?
I got 20-30 Steelers, just because I have this bad feeling that we're going to have to hear a lot of shit talked about the old Baltimore Ravens in the national media and headlines and all that stuff over the next week.
It does feel like sort of the end of the first act of the movie, doesn't it? Where things kind of aren't going too great. You need a little bit of a turnaround to happen before things. The
superhero has adversity to overcome, and I think that's this. If they lose this game, I think it's an amazing wake up call. I think it's kind of I don't know. They were favorited pretty heavily with the 5-point spread. Got a lot of action. I think that's down to 3.5 now. But coming off the bye, you really don't have any fucking excuses if you lose this game. The only excuse you have is that phrase that they liked a lot last year: nobody cares, work harder. Put your head down, get in the lab, put in the work. Don't let the noise affect you, and get it right if that's what ends up happening. So hopefully that's not the case, but I feel like it would just be too obvious for the Steelers to win this game and then the media to go insane and the Steelers are back and it's their division and blah, 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 blah. Lamar Jackson's Gabby gets into all that stuff, but I agree with some of the points she made, but yeah, it's going to be a tough one. What do you got on the docket?
So I got an exciting game between two really good teams. I don't think this game is going to change the perception of either of them. I think these are two teams that after this week, regardless of what happens, are still going to be in a hunt for the AFC North. Close game, man. Exciting, fun, fireworks. These are two teams with good offenses and good defenses, and it should prove to be quite the test. But, they're at home, and this is meathead fan in me, but I got a little Justin Tucker game-winning field goal, 28-27 Ravens. I think I'm kind of getting vibes of that Niners game last year where picked them to win a close one against a team that they were very well matched up with and could have gone either way however many different times. So picking them to win this time, I think Thanksgiving is going to be ruined, unfortunately. But that's where I'm at with it. 28-27 Ravens. John Harbaugh is just money after the bye. That's
kind of money after the bye. Those are all betting trends that I really enjoy. I hope they're all very true. And you make a good point. My favorite point that you made in this episode today is that unless the Steelers or the Ravens run roughshod on one another, like to 30-10 or whatever, there's just not some big. There doesn't have to be some big takeaway every time. If the Ravens, if the Ravens hit a last-minute field goal, if the Steelers win by 8, there's not some big takeaway that means all this huge monumental landslide for the narrative and all that. It's like these teams are going to beat each other. They're probably going to split this year. I think they split. They're both good teams. They're both well coached. They have good schemes that are complex and difficult to plan for. So there's not some big reaction to take away if the Ravens win or if the Steelers win. I love talking shit to Steelers fans. Don't get me wrong. Do not take me wrong there.
Have your fun.
Yes.
And talk shit and enjoy it for the better and for worse.
And we'll talk about what they didn't do well. If they lose, we'll talk about what they didn't do well if they win, all that stuff. Yes.
But and this is me getting even bigger meta, but it's like when you get into a rut in life as a person, you notice yourself focusing on little things. I'm like, oh God, I really fucked this up. And that
it snowballs. Yeah. And then you have all these excuses to make and you have all this negative energy. And you don't need that in life, nor as a fan.
Yeah. Keep your eye on the big picture, eye on the ball as always. And regardless of what happens in this game, I think that's what Ravens fans should be doing, which I've been preaching the last couple of weeks. But like you said, we will be right here talking about what went wrong, should things go wrong. And we'll be here talking about what went right, should things go right. But ultimately, it's a week 7 game, week 8. It's halfway through the year, it's not as big a deal as we're making it. I think the biggest deal right now is bragging rights. And obviously the division.
Love those bragging rights. And it's a huge game, division implications. Steelers have a cupcake schedule. Ravens kind of have a cupcake schedule too. So getting a win now is huge, of course. Yes, that's not to be missed on us, but not doom and gloom, 5-2, if that is the case, as I do predict a loss. And I think there's such things as a good loss. And there's so many people begging for adversity last year after that Titans game. It was too easy. Ravens were too cocky, blah, 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 blah. And now let's say they lose this game, which I don't think that's a certain outcome. I'm not saying there's no chance Ravens win, none of that, but adversity is good. Losing a little bit is good. It makes you seasoned. It makes you tough. It makes you want to work harder. You learn more from adversity than you do from success. Any successful person or entity or organization will tell you that.
Absolutely. All right, bud. We have gone an hour and 20 total here. When I cut this audio together, I don't know what the exact length is going to be, but it's going to be right around that. But this has been a very fun episode. It's been a stressful couple days for me, as I was telling you offline, and it's always great to hop on here with you and just kind of chop this stuff up. It's very
air it all out. We air it all out on here. This is our therapy. We love having you guys on. I do have one final announcement. I am cutting together at least 3 t-shirts, at least 3 long sleeve tees, at least 3 t-shirts. I'll be getting I have the design in, I'm getting the fabric, I'm getting all the good stuff I need. Have some good ideas for some t-shirts. Going to be putting those together for you guys. Not going to be crazy expensive, probably around $30-$35.
As one of the 2 candidates in this presidential election once said, they are very legal and very cool. So
very legal, very cool. They will be coming together soon.
A sneak preview at them. I'm excited about them.
Sneak preview. We've got a couple ones in the works. Me and my buddy are cutting some things together, and I'm going to have some fantastic t-shirts. I'm going to sound like Donald Trump here, but I've got some marvelous t-shirts. They're the best. I swear they're the best t-shirts.
Market. It's going to be a beauty. Really, it's going to be
really excited about them. Really excited about these t-shirts. I think they're going to be high quality. I'm going for kind of like a Baltimore with a little bit of Ravens and a shirt you can like wear to the bar and it's not too fan-like. So I'm getting some juices going. Probably going to end up starting a t-shirt company if it goes well.
Try to avoid the branding too hard.
Yeah, I'm not branding. I don't have a brand. Just chilling.
When you make the Baltimore Beatdown podcast shirt, which I experimented with last year too, I think good results, but I just didn't wind up doing anything with it. When we do make that, it'll be cool. You trust me.
It'll be cool. What bar, Evan Ash?
But bars are out there. Like
you have a bar in your fucking basement, Evan Ash.
Yeah, he's drinking. What is he drinking? Hershey Porters.
Hershey Pours. There will be a bar again at some point in this world. I promise you that. Outdoor bars, whatever. But a fun shirt that you're going to enjoy. Get it out ahead of the holidays. That's my goal. Have it in the next week or 2. Going to be a little bit Ravens themed, a little Baltimore themed, and get some sauce going, get some juice going. So look out for those. I'll be tweeting those. I'll be putting those on the Instagram, having them available for shipment. Hopefully within 3 weeks here is my plan. So appreciate that. Keep a lookout for that. And yeah, it was fun to come on here, air some stuff out, get some vibes going. On a Wednesday. You guys are listening on Thursday. We're gonna have an interview on Friday that will be out on. Maybe we'll release it on Friday.
It depends. We're gonna have to see where the interview goes and like what the content is. I was kind of thinking maybe middle next week for a standalone epi, if that makes sense.
Maybe depends on if we get some Steelers juice or not in there.
With the way that so if we get anything big time Steelers, I think we'll probably just drop it early. But as far as timing works, it will be kind of weird to drop an interview on a Friday afternoon. So
they got the weekend. People got the weekend and think ahead of the game. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. But we appreciate you guys. Jakey's going to lead us into an interview with Miss Gabrielle DiPaula, who was a great guest. Hopefully, we'll have her on again in the near future.
Listen, Gabby with an I.
Blaine Gabbert.
Who could honestly say? But yeah, it was a really fun interview. This is one that you put together, which I always appreciate you getting into the booking process because it's something that is very helpful.
You usually handle about 90% of those.
Yeah, for sure. But regardless, you did a great job here because she was a knockdown, drag out, great interview. Talking bye week, talking Ravens Steelers, talking 105.7. Which for anyone who I know we're not entirely 100% local contingent as far as listeners. We have plenty of local listeners. So you might know her from 105.7 and some of the stuff that she does. So yeah, she was a really fun interview. Great on the mic and I just knew her stuff. So this is a fun 40 minutes or so that you guys are going to want to tune in for.
Boom. Enjoy, guys.
Peace.